Hello, my name is Adam Tyson, and I'm here to show my expense tracker that I made in Java. So to begin with, I essentially use the Gradle format in order to build up my Java project. That definitely took me a long time, and as you can see, it has made a very much of a mess to try to get into the expense tracker itself. I'll go from the library to the source to the main to the Java file, and in there you'll find the Java project, as well as here's all of the Gradle information that was needed in order to make this project. Essentially, just going through it file by file, here is my expense file that essentially is a getter and setter for all of my variables that I have, as well as a date format that I wanted for the expense tracker. Because essentially for the expense tracker, what I wanted out of it was the ability for the person to add new expenses. And in those expenses, I wanted them to be able to track the date, the amount of money that they spent, and the description of what they spent their money on. And that essentially would be the expense that they would make. And then, as well as from this tracker, I also wanted them to be able to, of course, view their expenses and to be able to keep track of that. And in this sense, at first, I just decided to have it, be tracked by the program, but of course they would not store anywhere because it would just be inside the program. So at the beginning, I made it so that you could view the expenses that you had made while you had the program running, but as soon as the program turned off, the expenses were deleted. So in order to fix that, I decided to go to make JSON files, make a JSON file for your expenses. Now, for Java, it is very interesting to try to use anything JSON related because you need a library in order to get the import statements that you need to work on Java. So here's my essentially, I call it the expense tracker file, but essentially it's really all for the JSON stuff that I'll have going into it. And the JSON imports were these ones, and these come from the Jackson library. So this is the reason why I had to use Gradle, because in Gradle, you can go into the build.gradle file here, and in here you can add dependencies. And in the dependencies, I added the implementation of the Jackson library here, which then allowed me to use that to import the statements that I needed to use in here for the JSON file. And now in this file, I essentially have it. I just set up the JSON stuff. I set up that the expenses were going to be put into an array. The object mapper was essentially going to be used to read the values of the JSON file. And then the location of the JSON file is what would be opened over there. And if it existed, they would read through the file. As well as they'll have the save expenses, which essentially write the values into the file. Add expenses, well, that'll go from the array to the array of expenses, and I'll add each expense that was made from the expense tracker, and etc. So enough of that. Let's just go ahead and run the program. So here you go. I'll have my expense tracker down here, and we pull this up a little bit higher. I'll have my expense tracker menu, add new expense, view expenses, quit. So I already do have expenses in there. So when I do add a new one, I should have three, I believe. So let's add a new one. Let's have today's date on there. Why not? Let's do 05/11/2024. I believe it's 11 anyway. Let's enter an amount. Let's do like $5.25. What did I spend that on? Let's say a burger. And that'll be it. I should put a message that does say, then when I think about it, that the expense was added in. But you'll see here as soon as I hit two, so essentially I just kind of added a bunch of whole random things, which of course that might be something else I'll need to look into, of like making sure that the date is, a date that exists. But regardless, that I'll have. And then here are the amounts that I have saved for each one. And then I have description here for hello. That could just be for anything. And description for trees. I spent apparently $42.50 on trees. And then $5.25 on a burger. And then of course I can hit three and quit and get out of the program. Like I said, there's still some stuff that I wish I could have had done on this. One being making sure that the day is one that actually exists. Another one being perhaps just a bit better formatting of words in the command line interface as well, or being able to just make a completely new interface that somebody could just go into and actually start tracking their expenses that way instead of going through the command line. Besides all of that, that is all I have for this project. Thank you guys so much for watching.